At a family dinner, my brother tried to put me on the spot for not lending him money. He smirked and said, "Family helps each other." I stood up, pulled out my phone, and said, "Then explain this." His face went pale when he saw my name, Jordan. To say my family dynamics are complicated would be an understatement. There's always been this unspoken tension that nobody really addresses, but everyone feels it. If you've ever been part of a family that seems normal on the surface but you just know something's off, you'll understand. We're not poor, but we're not rich either. My parents did all right for themselves, and I guess I followed in their footsteps, landing a decent job and living paycheck to paycheck while managing to save a little here and there. But my brother, Tyler, is a different story. We grew up together, but we've never really clicked. He's always had this sense of entitlement, as if the world owes him something. As kids, it wasn't as obvious, but as we got older, it became more apparent, especially in the way he treated me. His behavior has always been less than friendly. Sometimes, the way he looks at me makes it clear he can't stand that I'm doing okay. I remember a few years back when he was venting about his struggles while driving around in a brand new car that our parents bought for him. When I mentioned that I was doing just fine without any handouts, he got defensive. Fast forward to today, and I'm sitting at a family dinner, trying to keep my composure. This gathering, like most others, is just an excuse for my relatives to pretend everything is fine. We meet at my aunt's house, a quaint suburban home with a white picket fence, but the atmosphere inside is thick with forced conversation and awkward smiles. My brother Tyler, of course, is at the center of it all, talking loudly enough for everyone to hear him but never actually saying anything worth listening to. He's always the loudest person in the room, whether he's bragging about some new gadget he bought or telling the same joke for the 100th time. I just sit there, nodding, trying to get through the night. As usual, no one talks about the real issues. No one brings up the fact that Tyler thinks he's entitled to everything just because we're family, and yet there I am, the black sheep, trying to avoid confrontation while everyone else pretends everything is fine. Then the conversation shifts. My aunt asks me how work is going. I don't mind sharing, "It's fine," I tell her. "It's steady." She nods as if it's the most interesting thing anyone could have said. I know she's trying to make small talk, but it's clear that no one really cares about the details. That's when Tyler starts. He looks over at me with that smug grin of his, and I know immediately that something's coming. "So, Jordan," he says, tapping his fork against his plate, "how's the job? Making good money now? You always seem like the type who does well for yourself." He says it like he's genuinely curious, but I know better. He's sizing me up, trying to figure out how much I'm making. I don't answer right away, I know he's fishing. "Oh, I reply casually, "just the usual working, saving up a bit here and there. Nothing too crazy." I keep it vague, watching him closely. I can tell he's not satisfied with that. He leans in, his voice dropping just enough for only the people closest to him to hear. "Yeah, well, you've got that nice little chunk of change now." "Must be nice," he says, smirking. I don't know if he thinks I won't notice, but I catch the edge in his voice, the unspoken challenge. "I've been thinking about getting a new car," he continues, his eyes glinting. "But with the way things are, I'm kind of short on cash. You know how it is, right?" He lets that hang in the air, waiting for me to bite. I don't take the bait. Instead, I take a slow sip of my drink, pretending not to notice his not-so-subtle jabs. It's like he thinks I'm too oblivious to see what he's doing. He's fishing for a compliment, trying to make me feel guilty for doing better than him. "Oh yeah?" I ask, keeping my voice light. "Well, you'll figure it out, I'm sure." That's when he presses. "I mean, come on, we're family, right?" Tyler leans in even more, dropping his voice to a near whisper, though it's loud enough for everyone at the table to hear. With Tyler's behavior, the message reads, "Tyler's been talking trash about you again. He told everyone you're just a broke loser who's lucky to have a job." Beneath that, there's another message, a bit more cutting. He says you're not even worth asking for help, but hey, I guess he'll only talk to you when he needs something. I watch as Tyler's face goes from pale to completely drained of color. I don't even need to say anything, the text says it all. My brother stammers, trying to keep his cool, but it's clear he's unsure of what to do. He clears his throat, his voice shaky. Hey, Jordan, that's not. He cuts himself off when he realizes there's nothing he can say to make this go away. The room remains silent, except for the quiet hum of the air conditioning and the faint clink of silverware on plates. Everyone is looking between us, and I can see the uncertainty in their eyes. No one has said a word yet. My aunt, who's usually the peacemaker in the family, glances at Tyler, then at me, her face tight with confusion. It's obvious she has no idea what's going on, and I can see her trying to piece together the situation in her head. Tyler, still trying to save face, forces out a weak laugh. Look, it's not what it looks like, okay? But he doesn't finish. His voice falters as he looks at the phone screen again, like he's finally starting to process how badly he's been caught. He shifts uncomfortably in his seat, his eyes flicking around the table, his expression a mix of embarrassment and frustration. But I'm not letting him off the hook. That's funny, I say, not bothering to hide the sarcasm in my voice. I didn't realize family talked behind each other's backs like that. But hey, maybe I'm just overreacting, right? I let the silence stretch for a few more seconds, watching Tyler squirm under the weight of his own lies. I don't even have to look at anyone else, I know they're all thinking the same thing. The worst part is that my aunt is starting to piece it together. She looks between us and then at Tyler, her face slowly changing from confusion to concern. Tyler, what is this? She asks softly. What's going on? I don't answer for him, I just let the silence hang in the air, letting the truth settle. Tyler opens his mouth again, trying to speak, but no words come out. He's running out of excuses, and everyone at the table is starting to see him for what he really is. The smug, entitled attitude he's carried for years is starting to crack, and for the first time, I'm not the one in the hot seat. But just as I think I've got the upper hand, my uncle speaks up. All right, let's just calm down. Everyone's a little on edge, okay, he says, trying to defuse the situation. But I can see it in his eyes, he doesn't really believe Tyler, not anymore. There's something in the way he glances at me now, like he's trying to figure out whether this is a family problem or if it's deeper than that. Tyler, sensing the shift, looks to my uncle for backup. Dad, this is ridiculous, he mutters. Jordan is just trying to make me look bad in front of everyone. I was just asking for some help, like any family would. This is blown way out of proportion. He's scrambling now, trying to manipulate the situation, but it's too late. The cracks are starting to show. I stand up, placing my phone face down on the table. I'm done with this conversation. I'm not making you look bad, Tyler, I say coldly. You're doing that all on your own. I turn to my aunt and uncle, my voice steady. You want to know what kind of family helps each other out? A family that doesn't talk behind each other's backs. A family that doesn't manipulate each other when they're in need. That's the kind of family I thought we were. Tyler's face is burning red now, and I'm sure he's regretting ever trying to pull this stunt. I can see it in his eyes the moment he realizes I'm not going to back down, that this time he's not going to get away with it. He shifts uneasily in his chair, unable to look anyone in the eye. And just before the tension reaches its peak, I make my move. You want money so badly? I say, my voice cutting through the silence. Then explain this. I reach for my phone again, ready to show him exactly what I've been holding back. Tyler clears his throat, trying to regain some semblance of pride. This is all a misunderstanding, he says, his voice quieter than before, but even I can hear the desperation in it now, the cracks in his defense. No, Tyler, I reply firmly, locking eyes with him. This isn't a misunderstanding. This is you trying to manipulate everyone around you. You've been playing the poor me act for so long, making everyone think you've got it hard and that you deserve help, but you've been using everyone, including me. Tyler's mouth opens and closes, but the words don't come. His mind is spinning, searching for a way out of this mess, but there's nothing. His shoulders sag as the weight of his own actions finally hits him. The arrogance, the manipulation, the lying, it all catches up to him in this one moment. But I'm not done yet. I turn to my aunt and uncle, my tone softening just enough to show them that this is more than just about Tyler's petty actions. I didn't want to have to do this in front of everyone, I say, my voice calm but firm. But you deserve to know what's been going on behind the scenes. Tyler's been trying to manipulate everyone in this family for his own gain, and now he thinks he can pressure me into giving him money just because he's family. Tyler's eyes widen, and I can see his panic. I didn't mean it like that. I wasn't trying to manipulate anyone. I stop him, my voice louder now, no longer allowing him to weasel his way out. This is exactly what you do. You gaslight everyone around you into believing you're the one who's been wronged, and when that doesn't work, you use the family card to make us feel guilty. I let that sink in for a moment, letting the full weight of my words land. The silence stretches on, thick and heavy, until finally my uncle speaks up, his voice tight with disappointment. This isn't the first time you've acted like this, is it? He asks, his eyes narrowing at Tyler. Tyler's jaw clenches, and he opens his mouth to protest, but my uncle holds up a hand, silencing him. You've been doing this for a while now, haven't you? Using people, playing the victim, and taking advantage of their generosity whenever it suits you. Tyler doesn't respond. He can't. My uncle's words hang in the air, the final nail in the coffin of Tyler's carefully constructed facade. I stand there for a moment, letting the gravity of the situation settle. It's finally over. Tyler's no longer the golden child who can do no wrong. I can see the cracks in his armor, and they're only getting bigger. But before he can respond, my aunt looks at me, her eyes softening. Jordan, I didn't know any of this. I'm so sorry. We should have noticed sooner. Her voice trembles, and it's clear she's struggling to reconcile the son she's known with the person standing in front of us now. Tyler shoots her a desperate look, but she doesn't need his gaze. She's seen enough. I can feel the eyes of everyone on me now, and for a moment, I wonder if I've gone too far. But then I realize no, this needed to happen. It was long overdue. Tyler's not going to get away with this, not anymore. And if that means making him face the consequences of his actions in front of everyone, then so be it. The silence lingers, but now it's not uncomfortable, it's expectant. The tension in the room is palpable, and I know this moment is one Tyler will never forget. But there's one more thing I need to say, one last thing that'll make sure he understands the full weight of his actions. Just remember, Tyler, I say, my voice low, family doesn't help each other by taking advantage of one another. It's about respect, honesty, and not pretending to be someone you're not when you need something. I wait for him to respond, but there's nothing left to say. The ball is in his court now, and I've made sure everyone here knows exactly who he is. But then my aunt speaks up again, her voice softer now, more apologetic. We're going to need to talk about this later, Tyler, all of us. The words are final, and I know that whatever happens next, nothing will be the same. But for now, I let the weight of the silence linger. Tyler finally pushes his chair back, standing up abruptly. His face is flushed, eyes wide with a mix of frustration and humiliation. He glares at me one last time, but the fire he once had is gone, replaced by something more painful. Real, I didn't hear from Tyler for a while, and I knew it was probably best that way. He needed time to process the fallout from his own actions. But what really struck me was how the rest of the family started to treat me. It wasn't just my aunt and uncle who were grateful for what I did, it was my cousins and other relatives as well. They reached out with messages of support, thanking me for standing up to him. It felt good to know I wasn't alone in this, that I had the backing of family who had seen what Tyler had been doing behind the scenes. As for Tyler, he eventually reached out, but it wasn't to apologize. He wanted something, of course. It wasn't money. Instead, he wanted to manipulate the situation again, trying to convince me that I was the one who had gone too far. He said the family would never be the same after what I did, but honestly, I didn't care. I didn't need to fix everything for him. What I did wasn't about him, it was about finally standing up for myself and showing that I wouldn't let him walk all over me anymore. Things aren't perfect. I haven't heard from him much since that last attempt, and I'm fine with that. It's not easy dealing with someone like Tyler, but I've made it clear that I won't be a doormat. I'm just relieved that, for the first time in a long while, there's a sense of peace in my family, and that's the way it stands now. My question to all of you is, what would you have done in my situation? Did I go too far, or was this something that needed to happen? Let me know your thoughts, because honestly, I'm still processing everything too. 3 weeks passed after that explosive dinner. I threw myself into work, trying to distract myself from the fallout. My phone occasionally buzzed with text messages from family members, mostly my aunt checking in to make sure I was okay, but nothing from Tyler. Until one rainy Tuesday afternoon, just as I was getting off work, my phone lit up with his name. For a moment, I hesitated, my thumb hovering over the screen. Part of me wanted to ignore it, to let him sit with what he'd done, but another part, the part that remembered growing up together, sharing a room, whispering secrets late at night before everything changed, made me answer. Hello? I kept my voice neutral, guarded. Jordan, his voice sounded different, smaller somehow, lacking the usual edge of confidence that bordered on arrogance. Can we talk? Not over the phone. I closed my eyes, weighing my options. Where? That coffee shop you like, the one near your apartment? I hesitated again. It was close to my place, which meant I could leave easily if things went south. Fine. Half an hour. When I arrived, he was already there, hunched over a table in the corner, hands wrapped around a mug that looked untouched. His hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail, unusual for him, as he was always so put together. He looked up when the bell above the door jingled, and I saw something I'd rarely seen in my brother: uncertainty. I ordered a coffee and took my time getting to his table. When I finally sat down, neither of us spoke for a long moment. "Thank you for coming," he said finally, his eyes fixed on his mug. I nodded but said nothing. "What you did at dinner," he started, then paused. "It was humiliating." I felt a flare of anger. "That's what you wanted to tell me? That I embarrassed you?" "No, wait," he raised a hand. "I'm not saying it right. It was humiliating because it was true." That stopped me. In all our years of conflict, I'd never heard him admit fault so directly. Mom and Dad talked to me, he fidgeted with a sugar packet. 4 hours. They showed me other times I've done this, not just to you, but to everyone. It's like they had this whole list. He gave a hollow laugh. "Turns out you weren't the only one noticing." I stayed silent, not willing to make this easier for him. "I've been seeing someone," he continued, and when my eyebrows shot up, he clarified, "a therapist. Just 2 sessions so far, but she thinks," he swallowed hard, "I might have some issues with narcissistic tendencies." The words hung between us. Part of me wanted to say, "No kidding," but I held back. "I'm not telling you this for sympathy," he added quickly, reading my expression. "I just want you to know I'm trying to understand why I do what I do, why I've been so